8-year-old boy defends his mother in court, but a shocking revelation leaves the judge speechless. The courtroom buzzed with whispers, a storm of curiosity swirling around the small figure standing alone at the wooden lectern. Ethan, just 8 years old, looked up at the imposing judge, his heart racing like a wild horse. The bright lights overhead cast strange shadows around him, making the room feel like a cavern filled with uncertain echoes. Today, he wasn't just a boy. He was a knight defending his mother, Sarah, against fearsome dragons of accusation. His chest tightened as he fixed his gaze on his mother, her eyes wide with trembling fear, as though she were standing on the edge of a precipice. The tension coiled tightly in the air, dancing around them like angry wasps. She had always been his hero, a sunbeam on cloudy days. But now she was caught in a dark web of allegations that made Ethan's stomach turn. "You did nothing wrong, Mom," he whispered, even though he confessed. They didn't know his mother. They didn't know the nights they spent baking cookies, the laughter that filled their small kitchen as they joked and made up silly songs. To them, she was just a name in a pile of papers filled with accusations. But to Ethan, she was everything. He thought back to that pivotal night when all of this began. A night coloured by secrets. His little heart clenched with a memory that flickered like an old film reel. He was tucked in bed, listening to the soft patter of rain against the window. That was when he had heard voices, a harsh whispering that pricked his curiosity. Ethan had crept down, his bare feet silent on the cool floor, heart pounding with excitement and dread. He peered around the corner into the dim glow of the living room. Shadows shifted in the dark, but one voice stood out, a sound he recognized too well. It was Uncle Tom, gruff and warm like the best hugs, laced with a gravity that didn't match the easy laughing man he adored. But had he really heard what he thought he had? As Ethan stood there, the courtroom fell silent, the air thick with a palpable tension. A gasp echoed through the room as his tiny voice broke the quiet. "I remember what happened that night." The judge's eyes widened, as would everyone else's, peeling the layers of uncertainty down. It wasn't Mum who was bad. It was Uncle Tom. Ethan's heart raced, pounding against his chest like a frantic rabbit. The faces around him twisted in disbelief, but Ethan felt the weight of the truth pressing against him. He had always loved Uncle Tom, but this revelation was like shattering glass. What would it mean for his family? Would it change everything? Torn between a loyalty that ran deep like roots in the soil and the heartbreaking reality before him, Ethan felt the courage swell inside him. As the buzz of disbelief took over the room, one thing was clear. Ethan's moment was just beginning, and he was caught in the whirlwind of loyalty. Betrayer. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without any notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming up. And while you're here, hit that powerful like button. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching? I love getting to know every incredible person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Ethan felt the weight of his words hang in the air. A spotlight seemed to land on him, and he could sense the shift in the room. The judge's brow furrowed, and whispers cascaded around him like ripples in water. Uncle Tom? That name was a sacred bond in the family, and yet now it felt like a rusty chain. He could feel the unease ripple through the crowd. Leaning in, the judge had a steely glint in his eye, searching Ethan's face for truth. But it wasn't just the judge who was intrigued. Sarah's gaze darted to the jury, her heart thrumming with hope and fear. Ethan's words pierced through the storm. If Uncle Tom had done something bad, she could be free. But then the pit in her stomach deepened. What proof did they have? Just then, the courtroom doors swung open with a creak. Pulling everyone's attention, a heavy-set man barged in, his face red with either anxiety or anger. It was Officer Jennings, the lead investigator on their case, connecting the dots with the kind of speed that made Ethan's young head spin. "Your Honor," he called, his voice a blend of urgency and authority. "There's been a development." All eyes turned to him as he pressed through the murmurs of astonishment, glancing at Ethan, then at Sarah. A heavy silence draped over the room. "We've confirmed that Uncle Tom—" The officer hesitated, drawing in a sharp breath. He's been in contact with an illicit group. "We found evidence linking Sarah to the accusations made against her." There's no easy way to say this. A clenching sensation wrapped around Ethan's chest, squeezing tighter with every word, like a python coiling around its prey. How could this be happening? He felt his world tilt. "No!" he shouted, the word bursting from his lips like a frightened sparrow. Every face in the room turned to him again. Confusion etched deep into their expressions. Officer Jennings swallowed hard, eyes fixed on Ethan. There were transactions. Money went into your mother's account after Uncle Tom's dark dealings. We discovered it hidden behind a fake business name. The air evaporated from Ethan's lungs. Not just Uncle Tom, but his mum too. A heavy ache flooded his chest. The glamorous memories of baking cookies and singing songs felt distant, replaced by shadows that felt too heavy for small shoulders to bear. "Mum?" His voice trembled. "You didn't tell me." Sarah's eyes grew wide, a storm brewing within their depths. "Ethan, I don't know what." But Ethan couldn't bear to listen anymore. Confusion mingled with horror in his gut. The room was spinning, and he wanted to shout, to scream, to run away from all this madness. Suddenly, Ethan's tiny frame felt the weight of the truth crashing down upon him. "Mom, are we really bad?" A murmur of shock spread through the room. People exchanging glances of disbelief. As the words hung in the air, ties of loyalty began to fray. Who really was the hero? Who was the villain? Through the chaos, he saw Uncle Tom's familiar face. Now, a shadow in the backdrop of a twisted stage. And that's when something deeper hit him, like a thunderbolt. What if Uncle Tom wasn't the only one hiding secrets? What if everything he had come to believe about love, loyalty, and family was built on lies? Tension crackled like static, and as the chamber swirled with whispers, Ethan's small, trembling hands formed fists. He'd have to find the truth, no matter where it led him next. Ethan's small, trembling hands formed fists, and his heart pounded like a drum in his chest. The weight of everyone's gaze on him felt almost suffocating. "Mum, are we really bad?" he whispered, dread clawing at his throat. Faces blurred around him, the whispers rising and falling like waves crashing on a rocky shore. Mum's expression twisted into something unrecognizable. "Ethan, I don't know what—" But her voice trailed off, the air thickening like fog enveloping them. Yet, just as the tension reached a breaking point, the courtroom doors slammed open again, this time with a force that echoed against the walls. A figure rushed in, eyes wide with panic. It was another officer, one Ethan had never seen before, but the urgency was unmistakable. "Your Honor," he shouted, sweat glistening on his brow. "We have to stop the trial!" Gasps rippled through the crowd. The judge blinked, visibly caught off guard. "What is the meaning of this interruption?" he barked, a hint of irritation in his voice. "Sir, it's crucial. We've discovered something vital." The officer fumbled with a folder, his hands shaking. "We've been going through Uncle Tom's records, and the transactions don't just connect to Sarah." Everyone leaned in, the stillness now charged with a raw energy. "They connect back to you, Your Honor." Ethan's breath hitched. The room swirled in disbelief. "The judge? Involved? What kind of tangled web was this?" "Me?" The judge's voice tightened, and his entire demeanor shifted, turning cold as ice. For a fleeting moment, the mask slipped. Ethan could see a flicker of fear. "Yes, the money! You're a part of it!" The officer pressed on, voice sharper now. "Your signature was on documents tied to Uncle Tom's dealings. We have evidence, Your Honor. You're implicated." Shock consumed the room. Whispers exploded into frantic conversations. Some in the jury shook their heads, their expressions shifting from curiosity to horror. "That's impossible." The opposing lawyer sputtered, clearly taken aback. "This must be some mistake." Ethan's head spun. Pieces of a puzzle he didn't even know existed began to fall into place. Uncle Tom, his beloved uncle, wasn't just hiding secrets. The very man presiding over their case, the one who was meant to uphold justice, was wrapped deep in the darkness of the betrayal. But what did this mean? Where did the truth lie? "Everyone, please!" Ethan could barely hear himself over the noise. "What's happening?" His small voice rose above the chaos, desperate for clarity. The judge's face paled. "This is preposterous," he exclaimed, but even he sounded unsure, like a pendulum swinging between authority and fear. "Let's see the evidence," the officer shouted, cutting through the murmur. The tension crackled, and eyes turned toward the officer as he revealed documents, photographs, correspondence linking the judge to Uncle Tom in ways that turned familial love into a snare. Mum, Ethan's voice trembled, tears stinging at the corners of his eyes. What does this mean for us?" Betrayal twisted inside him, dark and heavy. Would all the love they had shared be overshadowed by lies? Through the whirlwind of emotions, one thought stood firm. The world they had known began to unravel like a fraying thread, pulling them all into an unknown abyss of chaos. What if everything Ethan believed about love, family, and loyalty was built on nothing but a fragile illusion? As the documents lay open, revealing shadows of truth that clawed at the fabric. He felt the chaos swirling, scent slipping away. What would happen next? Who could he trust? The room fell into a deafening silence, hearts racing, breaths held. The air felt electric, pregnant with unsteady truths, just waiting to be unveiled. The room fell into a deafening silence, hearts racing, breaths held. The air felt electric, pregnant with unsteady truths, just waiting to be unveiled. Ethan took a step back, a mix of shock and fear swirling inside him like a thunderstorm. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down on his small shoulders. The officer glanced at the documents in his hands. "We believe your honor may have been involved with Uncle Tom and—" Before he could finish, a loud bang erupted from the back of the courtroom. The sound shattered the tense atmosphere, making everyone jump. A figure stumbled inside, breathless and wide-eyed. People turned, their faces shifting in confusion mixed with concern. It was Aunt Lisa, Uncle Tom's sister. She looked like she had just raced through a hurricane. "Stop the trial!" she cried, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. The judge's face twisted with irritation. "You can't just barge in here!" he snapped. But the urgency in her eyes silenced him. "Please, you need to listen to me. Ethan, you have to understand." Lisa took a deep breath, her hands shaking. "Everything you think you know, it's all a lie!" Ethan's heart sank. The world around him blurred. Tears sprang to Sarah's eyes. "What do you mean?" "Uncle Tom was never what you believed him to be. He was a con man, and he used us, used this family." Lisa's words tumbled out, jagged and sharp. "I was involved in his schemes too, but I wanted to stop him. And then he threatened me to stay silent." Confusion flickered like candlelight in Ethan's chest as he tried to piece together her frantic words. Mind was racing. How could this be? The loving Uncle Tom, who played games with him, had been hiding something so dark? Stop! Ethan's voice rose above the noise. "Are you saying he's been lying to us all this time?" "Yes! He used our family as a cover. And Uncle Tom, he's in serious trouble." Lisa's voice cracked, tears streaming down her face. "He's dangerous, Ethan. I was too scared to say anything before. But this isn't just about your mum. It's bigger than any of us." Murmurs filled the courtroom. People exchanged glances. Disbelief etched on their faces. The judge's expression shifted. Uncertainty creeping into his authoritative demeanor. Who was Lisa really? Then a piercing scream shattered the air. It came from the back of the room, making everyone turn again. A man staggered forward, his clothes torn and stained. "Help!" he gasped, his face pale with fear. "Uncle Tom's coming for you all!" Gasps swept through the crowd. Chairs scraped back and panic surged like a tidal wave. "What do you mean?" the judge barked, regaining some authority. "He's done something terrible. He's going to take everyone down with him." The man clutched his head, trembling with sheer terror. Ethan's heart raced faster, pounding against his ribcage. Every face around him twisted in alarm. "Mom!" he cried, rushing to Sarah's side. She grasped his hand tightly, her love and fear mixing into a whirlwind. Lisa stepped closer to Ethan, desperation in her eyes. "We have to warn them. It's going to explode, and we might be trapped." Suddenly the lights flickered and went out. The room plunged into darkness. Gasps echoed, and chaos erupted. Uneasy shuffling and frantic whispers filled the darkness. Ethan couldn't see anything. He clutched his mother's hand, panic rising. Fear gripped him like a vice. Were they all in danger? Could Uncle Tom come after them? And just then, a sound cut through the escalating chaos. A loud crash, followed by a voice, booming, filled with malice. "You'll never escape the truth." Ethan's heart plunged into a bottomless pit. Who was this voice? What had they walked into? In that moment, everything changed. Reality twisted and morphed around him. And Ethan was plunged deeper into a nightmare he could never have imagined. Shadows danced in the darkness, and he could feel the ground shifting beneath their feet. What really lay ahead? What truths remained hidden, waiting to unravel? The answers felt just out of reach, dangling like a teased promise. Yet within that swirling uncertainty, one thought burned brighter than any fear. They had to find the truth before it consumed them all. The room fell into a deafening silence. Hearts racing, breaths held. The air felt electric, pregnant with unsteady truths just waiting to be unveiled. Ethan took a step back, a mix of shock and fear swirling inside him like a thunderstorm. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down on his small shoulders. The officer glanced at the documents in his hands. "We believe Your Honor may have been involved with Uncle Tom and—" Before he could finish, a loud bang erupted from the back of the courtroom. The sound shattered the tense atmosphere, making everyone jump. A figure stumbled inside, breathless and wide-eyed. People turned, their faces shifting in confusion, mixed with concern. It was Aunt Lisa, Uncle Tom's sister! She looked like she had just raced through a hurricane. "Stop the trial!" she cried, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. The judge's face twisted with irritation. "You can't just barge in here," he snapped, but the urgency in her eyes silenced him. "Please, you need to listen to me. Ethan, you have to understand." Lisa took a deep breath, her hands shaking. "Everything you think you know, it's all a lie." Ethan's heart sank. The world around him blurred. Tears sprang to Sarah's eyes. "What do you mean? Uncle Tom was never what you believed him to be. He was a con man, and he used us. Used this family." Lisa's words tumbled out, jagged and sharp. "I was involved in his schemes too, but I wanted to stop him. And then he threatened me to stay silent." Confusion flickered like candlelight in Ethan's chest as he tried to piece together her frantic words. His mind was racing. How could this be? The loving Uncle Tom who played games with him had been hiding something so dark? "Stop!" Ethan's voice rose above the noise. "Are you saying he's been lying to us all this time?" "Yes! He used our family as a cover! And Uncle Tom? He's in serious trouble." Lisa's voice cracked, tears streaming down her face. "He's dangerous, Ethan. I was too scared to say anything before, but this isn't just about your mum. It's bigger than any of us." Murmurs filled the courtroom. People exchanged glances, disbelief etched on their faces. The judge's expression shifted. uncertainty creeping into his authoritative demeanour. Who was Lisa really? Then a piercing scream shattered the air. It came from the back of the room, making everyone turn again. A man staggered forward, his clothes torn and stained. "Help!" he gasped, his face pale with fear. "Uncle Tom's coming for you all!" Gasps swept through the crowd. Chairs scraped back, and panic surged like a tidal wave. "What do you mean?" the judge barked, regaining some authority. "He's done something terrible. He's going to take everyone down with him." The man clutched his head, trembling with sheer terror. Ethan's heart raced faster, pounding against his ribcage. Every face around him twisted in alarm. "Mom!" he cried, rushing to Sarah's side. She grasped his hand tightly, her love and fear mixing into a whirlwind. Lisa stepped closer to Ethan, desperation in her eyes. "We have to warn them. It's going to explode and we might be trapped." Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out. The room plunged into darkness. Gasps echoed and chaos erupted. Uneasy shuffling and frantic whispers filled the darkness. Ethan couldn't see anything. He clutched his mother's hand, panic rising. Fear gripped him like a vice. Were they all in danger? Could Uncle Tom come after them? And just then, a sound cut through the escalating chaos. A loud crash, followed by a voice, booming, filled with malice. "You'll never escape the truth." Ethan's heart plunged into a bottomless pit. Who was this voice? What had they walked into? In that moment, everything changed. Reality twisted and morphed around him, and Ethan was plunged deeper into a nightmare he could never have imagined. Shadows danced in the darkness, and he could feel the ground shifting beneath their feet. But then, suddenly, a flash of light illuminated the room. Standing in the doorway was Uncle Tom, not the boogeyman they feared, but rather a hero in disguise, brandishing evidence of his innocence. "Listen!" he shouted, voice echoing against the walls. "I've exposed the judge. He's the mastermind behind it all. The entire trial was a setup to frame your mother." Ethan felt his heart stop. Everything he had known trembled, threatened to dissolve into bricks of lies. The whispers died down, attention now turning toward Tom. Was this the truth, or another trick? Ethan's mind whirled. What if Uncle Tom had been manipulating them even more? Could he really trust him? In a world where nothing was as it seemed, where did loyalty truly reside? As the tension thickened, one thing hung palpably in the air. The truth, whatever it was, seemed closer, yet more mysterious than ever. Standing there, confusion swirling around him, Ethan's mind raced. Uncle Tom had just burst into the courtroom, blustering about evidence, and suddenly everything felt upside down. The air crackled with uncertainty, and he could sense the reactions of those around him. Faces transitioning from skepticism to shock. Ethan's heart thudded against his ribs like a hammer. "Listen!" Uncle Tom shouted again, his voice breaking through the fog of doubt. "You know me. I would never hurt my family. We can take this to the police. They'll see I'm innocent." A mix of disbelief and unease rippled through the crowd. The judge's face turned a shade paler, his authority slipping like a candle flickering in the wind. Ethan could feel the weight of the moment, a heavy shadow looming over his family. What did Tom mean by innocence? How deep did this rabbit hole go? But just as the tension began to mount, Lisa stepped forward, her face taut with fear. "Tom, this isn't about you being innocent or guilty. It's about saving Ethan." Then, in a flash, Ethan's heart lurched as the electric tension was shattered by a piercing siren wailing in the distance. A flood of lights illuminated the courtroom, casting chaotic shadows against the walls. "Uncle Tom!" a voice called from the back. It was a woman, face pale and eyes wide with desperation. "You need to come with me! Now!" The crowd gasped, tension rippling through them. Who was this woman? What did she know? Tom's expression twisted. A mix of surprise and dread plastered over his features. "What do you mean? Why?" "Because," she said, her voice trembling, "if you don't, they'll come for you. They found the evidence, and it connects to all of us." Ethan's stomach dropped. The chill of fear slithered through him. What evidence? What did this mean for them? Were they all in danger? Tom's pleadings, mixed with the urgency of the situation, shutting down any sense of clarity. The woman took a step forward, her eyes locking onto Ethan's. "You all need to listen to me. Uncle Tom isn't just innocent. No, he's a target, and we aren't safe here. The real danger is closer than you think." A collective gasp echoed as the room stood still, heartbeats pounding like drums. Ethan's breath caught in his throat, panic flooding every inch of him. "What do you mean?" he yelled, desperation lacing his words. Before she could respond, the heavy courtroom doors swung open with a violent bang. Two men stormed in, wearing dark suits, eyes cold and ruthless. "Where is he?" one of them growled. "We need to take care of this now!" Ethan's heart raced, confusion clouding his vision as he sought out his mum, grasping her hand tighter. Sarah's face reflected his own terror, a hard mask of uncertainty that sliced through Ethan's little frame. What was happening? Who were these men? "Uncle Tom, we need to leave now!" The woman's voice sliced through the chaos. Tom hesitated, eyeing the men as if trying to gauge their intentions. "I can't just leave my family." "You don't understand," she pleaded. "They won't stop until they've destroyed everything." Then, in a flash of understanding, it hit Ethan like a wave crashing on a beach. The truth, whatever dark secret lay behind all of this, was tangled in a web of betrayal that stretched far beyond just Uncle Tom. He felt a chilling realization wash over him. What if Tom wasn't just innocent? What if there was something darker lurking just beneath the surface? "Enough!" the judge roared, trying to regain control. "Everyone needs to leave. This trial's over." But before he could finish, Uncle Tom turned to Ethan, eyes bright with an emotion that flickered between fear and something else. Something he couldn't place. "Ethan, listen to me very carefully. There's something I need to tell you." A loud crash jolted everyone from their focus. Glass shattered. The windows exploded inward, showering the courtroom in a rain of sharp shards. "Run!" the woman screamed, her voice spiraling into panic. Ethan's heart sank as he instinctively pulled Sarah, his small body pushing against the currents of chaos forming around them. The air thickened with a sense of urgency, breaths quickening. Then everything he thought he knew hurtled into disarray. The shocking truth was just on the edge of revelation, but the chaos held it hostage. What really lay behind Uncle Tom's innocence? Who were they really running from? The fear of the unknown gripped Ethan's soul. As he glanced back at Uncle Tom, desperation shining in those familiar eyes, Ethan felt his world tilt. Would he find out who the real enemy was? Or would he lose everything to the shadows closing in? The whispers of truth danced like ghosts in the air, shrouded in mystery, desperate for light. And Ethan was caught in the middle, helpless but to seek the terrifying answers. The room fell into chaos as glass shards littered the floor, the air thick with fear. "Mum!" he cried again, tugging at her like a lifeline. Uncle Tom's voice cut through the noise. "We don't have time! We need to get out of here, now!" But his eyes flickered with uncertainty. The men in dark suits were closing in, faces stoic, intent. Ethan turned, scanning the room, his small frame barely taller than the chaotic scene around him. Faces were twisted in shock, whispers bouncing off the walls like errant balls in a pinball machine. "What's happening?" He wanted to scream, but the words were caught in his throat. Then it happened. A sudden surge of footsteps thundered in from the back. Another officer, looking panicked and wild-eyed, burst through the chaos. "Uncle Tom, you need to listen. It's about the money." Uncle Tom stiffened. "What do you mean? What about it?" The officer shook his head, his chest heaving. "It's not just the judge. It's deeper. The money you were accused of taking, it wasn't your mother's. It was a setup. The true mastermind is—" But before he could finish, a loud bang echoed through the courtroom. The door flew open once more, and a figure rushed in, their silhouette outlined by the lights flickering back on, illuminating the faces of uncertainty and dread. Ethan squinted, trying to process who it was. The gasp from the crowd told him it was his father, James. He had been out of the picture for so long, a ghost in their lives. And now here he was, sweaty and wild-eyed. "Stop! It's all my fault!" Ethan's breath caught. "Dad? What was he doing here? Why now?" "I did it! I lost our savings! I got mixed up in Uncle's schemes!" James blurted, his hands raised in surrender. "They're after me!" Ethan's heart sank. "What?" "I thought I could fix it, but Uncle Tom was in on it from the start. He lied to all of us." Silence enveloped the room, thick like fog. The faces turned from Uncle Tom to James, disbelief pooling in their expressions. Aunt Lisa's fingers flew to her lips, shock washing over her. One horrible truth pounding through Ethan's mind. Everything he knew felt like it was crushing down on him. "No!" he shouted, shaking his head violently. "You're wrong!" But James continued, his voice breaking. "I wanted to protect you, Ethan. I thought I could fix everything. It was supposed to be easy money, but I got sucked in. And it was never about your mother or Uncle Tom. It was always about the money." Ethan's small body trembled as he processed this. Anger and betrayal twisted in his gut. How could the man who was supposed to protect him be the root of this horror? "Run!" the officer shouted, again, snapping everyone back to reality, pushing them from the edge of disbelief back into survival. We need to get out now! They will come for everybody involved. Where? Sarah clutched Ethan's hand tighter, panic spreading across her features. But before anyone could move, the judge's voice pierced the confusion, cold and calculating despite the bedlam around him. You won't get out of here. You're all under arrest for conspiracy. We've had enough. Ethan felt his skin crawl, all senses heightening. Dad, Uncle Tom, Mum? He didn't even know who to trust now. Suddenly, the reality of it all hit him with staggering force. The lines of loyalty blurred. Family ties felt like chains, binding him to secrets painted in shades of darkness. He was caught between a past he couldn't escape and a future that looked bleaker by the second. No! His mind shouted, a silent plea to the universe. Just then, the floor beneath them trembled, shaking as if the very ground recognized the truth. And then, at the moment when everything felt lost, a bright flash erupted from the back of the room, momentarily blinding them all. "Get down!" yelled the officer as the room exploded into chaos, leaving Ethan reeling, terrified. In that moment, everything shattered again. Their loyalties, their truths, all up for grabs as his world twisted anew. Who was defending whom anymore? The answers were lost in smoke, suffocating, just out of reach. Ethan's heart raced with the fear of the unknown, rushing in like a tidal wave. But amidst it all, a single thought blazed through the chaos. The truth was alive, and it was about to change everything. The sound of shattering glass hung in the air, melded with gasps and cries of panic. In that chaotic moment, the courtroom transformed into a scene of pure dread. Everyone scrambling to safety, but uncertainty draped over them like a heavy cloak. Ethan crouched beside his mother, heart racing, the fire of panic lapping at his insides. "Run!" the officer shouted again, cutting through the madness. But instead of bolting for the exit, Ethan felt rooted to the ground. A sick feeling sea. His father, James, was still trying to explain, every word a bead of truth lining his confession. "I didn't mean to drag you all into this," he stammered, desperately looking from Sarah to Uncle Tom. "I swear it wasn't just about the money." But then, something shifted in the room. The lights flickered back on, illuminating faces twisted in fear and confusion. But it also washed over James. A stark contrast highlighted his beads of sweat and trembling hands. "Dad, stop talking," Ethan yelled, clutching onto Sarah tightly as he tried to pull her away, draw them to safety. "We need to get out of here!" But just then, Tom's cell phone buzzed loudly from his pocket. The sound cut through the chaos like a gunshot, and everyone stilled. Faces turned to Uncle Tom, who fished the phone out with shaky fingers. His eyes flickered over the screen, and then his face paled. "No," he breathed, stepping back as if the ground had given way beneath him. "It can't be." "What? What's going on?" Ethan's voice trembled, dread creeping up his spine. Tom's gaze darted around the room as realization washed over him like a cold wave. I just got a message. They found the documents, and they're blaming me." His voice cracked and Ethan's heart twisted painfully. "What do you mean?" James demanded, voice rising. But it fell short when he saw Tom's face. Desperation mingled with guilt. Who? The room buzzed with whispers, concern thrumming through the air as everyone leaned in, eager for answers. Uncle Tom, came the trembling voice of Lisa, her eyes wide. Is this about the judge? Tell me it's not! Before she completed the thought, a loud explosion ripped through the walls, shaking the very foundations of their world. Dust and debris flew everywhere, sending people tumbling to the ground. Ethan's fingers found his mum just in time to pull her away from a falling piece of plaster. "Get down!" the officer yelled as the courtroom descended into chaos again. Ethan shielded his eyes, fear coursing through him. When he looked up, the scene shifted dramatically. The thick smoke billowed, obscuring everything, a dark fog swallowing the space. Then he heard a voice cut through the clamour, confident and firm. "Enough of this madness!" As the smoke parted, a tall figure emerged, standing framed by the blaze. But it wasn't who he expected. It was a woman, cloaked in authority, with sharp features and a gaze that pierced through the haze. "You've all been pawns in a game much larger than you know. This has been a setup, and I'm here to expose the truth." Ethan's blood ran cold. The resemblance was uncanny. It was Clara, his mother's sister, the one who had vanished years ago without a trace. His heart raced, shocking him back from the paralysis. "Aunt Clara!" he called out, voice trembling. But she wasn't looking at him. Her fierce eyes were locked on Uncle Tom, laced with a fury and hurt. "You thought you could hide it forever, didn't you?" "Hide what?" Tom stammered, confusion etched on his face. "The truth of this family!" Clara's voice rose like a storm, shaking the very walls. "You'll never see it coming. The reason this all started." "What are you talking about?" Lisa interjected, bewildered. In that tangled moment, the air shifted again. The pieces clicked painfully into place, twists and turns recoiling like a snake around their secrets, biting down on everything they held dear. "The truth will devour you all, Uncle Tom, as it did before," Clara shouted, her voice echoing with an ominous grandeur. Eyes blazing with intensity, Ethan felt the ground wobble under him again. Suddenly, he realized the very family they thought they knew was a jigsaw of deception, and each revelation peeled back layers of trust. In that instant, the weight of all they believed crumbled like old paper, giving way to a truth that twisted the fabric of their lives. What horrible secrets lay hidden behind those family ties? What would it mean for Ethan? Would anyone survive the revelation of what truly lurked in the shadows? The room hung heavy with Clara's words, the shock of her revelation crackling through the air. Faces shifted, doubt etched on every expression. But before anyone could utter another breath, it happened. Just as the truth felt poised to consume them, the courtroom shook again, this time with a force that sent bodies reeling. A blinding light pierced through the haze of smoke, illuminating the shadows in a sudden burst. Ethan squinted, his heart pounding in his chest, the world around him a whirl of confusion. He glanced at his mother, her eyes wide with disbelief, her grip on his hand tightening like a lifeline. Uncle Tom stood frozen, Clara's fury casting a halo of uncertainty around him. "Ethan!" a voice bellowed, slicing through the chaos. It was Officer Jennings, panic-stricken and shouting, "Get down!" Before Ethan could react, an explosion shook the ground. A burst of heat and wind rushed through the courtroom. Dust and debris flew like angry wasps, knocking people to the floor. Screams echoed off the walls, twisting the air into a frenzied panic. "Mom!" Ethan cried, instinctively pulling Sarah close, shielding her from the chaos. But as the cloud of dust began to settle, another sound swelled. A low rumble, haunting and familiar. People staggered to their feet, eyes wide, as they turned toward the source of the noise, the truth dawning like a slow sunrise. The sound came from a doorway that had been hidden behind the judge's bench. A shadow loomed tall, a silhouette emerging from the darkness. Ethan's stomach lurched. No, it can't be! But it was, standing there, with an air of confidence that cut through the chaos like a knife, was none other than his real father. The one he thought had died long ago in a terrible accident. David, alive and standing before them all. "Ethan!" David called, urgency flooding his voice. "We need to go! They're coming for all of us!" Ethan felt his heart drop, dissonance clashing within him. The father he mourned, the absence that had shaped his world, now bore the tension of 1,000 questions. But there wasn't time. The room exploded into chaos again. "Stop! You can't just barge in!" the judge shouted. But his authority was lost beneath the clamour. "It's true! I've been undercover, trying to stop this from happening." David pressed on, eyes darting between people. "We're all in danger. Uncle Tom, you need to come with me." Uncle Tom's face twisted, a mix of confusion and fear. "What do you mean? You've been alive this whole time?" But there was no time for explanations. The walls shook again, a distant rumble, signalling that danger loomed closer. Clara's face paled, and anguish mixed with defiance. "David, you're part of this too, aren't you?" The weight of her accusation hung heavy in the air, stinging like a fresh wound. "No," David replied, shaking his head vehemently. "I'm not. I was trying to protect you, but I can't do this alone." Ethan's chest felt tight, a tangled mass of confusion and betrayal. His pulse quickened as he glanced between David, this stranger clad in familiarity, and Uncle Tom, the only father figure he had ever known. "What are you all hiding?" he shouted, tears brimming in his eyes. Before anyone could respond, the heavy courtroom doors swung open, crashing against the walls as a group of armed guards stormed in, their faces grim and set. "Get down!" one hollered. Chaos erupted anew. Panic rippling through the crowd, Ethan's stomach churned. Everything he thought he knew had unraveled. Friends turned to enemies. Family ties frayed like worn threads. Who could he trust now? Could they truly escape this nightmare at all? Would he lose David again just when they were finally together? As they all moved, the flickering lights casting eerie shadows on the walls, firing questions felt futile. All Ethan could think was that the truth was buried deep. But somehow they were all connected in this dark web of deceit. The past twisted and warped into something terrifying. And as faces distorted in fear, Ethan felt one single thought solidify in his heart. A desperate need to uncover everything, no matter the cost. Because now the truth threatened to consume them all. And Ethan was caught in the eye of the storm. The chaos in the courtroom grew louder as Ethan grasped his mother's hand. Feeling the tremors of fear, she was looking at David, a father who had been lost to him for years, now returned with a swirl of confusion and emotion. "What are you doing here?" Sarah cried, voice breaking. David stepped forward, urgency painted across his features. "I have information that can save us. We can't let them take you." His eyes darted, and it was clear he recognized the danger surrounding them all. Uncle Tom's face twisted in a mix of betrayal and disbelief. "You were alive all this time. Why didn't you come back sooner?" The hurt in his voice cut through the chaos. "Because I had to protect you." "And I thought it was working until now," David replied, glancing towards the armed men who were closing in. "They want us all in chains. If we don't get out, we will all pay the price for this mess." Footsteps thundered as guards pushed through the smoke and confusion, raising panic levels higher. Clara stepped forward, defiance igniting her eyes. "This isn't over! You people don't understand the depth of the lie." David's gaze locked onto Clara. "Enough! We don't have time to unravel this now. We need to leave, like, right now!" With that, the tension peaked, stretching thin like a rubber band ready to snap. Ethan felt a surge of courage coursing through him despite the chaos. "We can't just leave! What about the truth?" But before anyone could answer, the courtroom doors crashed open again. A new figure stepped in, silhouetted against the blaring lights. "It's time to end this charade," the woman shouted, her presence commanding. Ethan squinted against the brightness. She looked familiar. It was Detective Lawson, the one who had once investigated their family's troubles. "Everyone, back away! This is a police operation!" Fear surged as the crowd shifted uneasily. But Ethan felt a strange comfort from her. "Detective!" he yelled, heart pounding. "We need your help!" She nodded, her eyes sweeping over the chaos. "I see the situation is severe. We can't let you harm each other anymore." At that moment, the air shifted again, a wave of energy crackling through them all. The truth felt close, tantalizingly within reach. With the guards looming, Ethan's heart raced. "You all have to listen," he shouted. "All of us! Mum, Uncle Tom, Dad! None of us are the real enemy." Silence fell, tension hanging like mist. They were caught in a storm of revelations and betrayals. And in that moment of stillness, a spark of hope ignited within Ethan. This was it, the bridge they needed to cross. "We're stronger together! If we share our stories, they can't use our fears against us anymore." Tears erupted from Sarah's eyes, and she pulled Ethan close, a mix of fear and pride swelling within her. "You're so brave, my love." But he could sense her fear. Could they really overcome this together? Detective Lawson moved closer, a glimmer of determination in her eyes. "Let's end this. We need every single one of you to tell your truth." With a deep breath, Ethan felt a wave of courage wash over him. Okay, let's do it! As they joined together, fingers interlocked, a bond of strength grew amidst the uncertainty. The guard's approach faltered. The energy shifted, creating a ripple of connection and trust. Then they heard a voice from the far end of the room. "Enough! You will pay for this!" It was the judge, face twisted and furious. But this time they stood united, hearts beating as one. No more fear would rule them. They would fight together. The chaos of the world around them became a backdrop for something powerful: hope. And as they prepared to share their truths, Ethan felt an electric surge through him. He was no longer just a boy standing alone. He was part of something larger, something beautiful. The screen faded, leaving the audience hanging. The unresolved threads of betrayal and unity wove through the room. Sparks of mystery left dangling, echoing in hearts everywhere. Now, this is where we need you! You need to subscribe immediately to not miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this outcome. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with these actions. Let's keep this amazing journey going!